Department of Art here at the University of Maryland, and I actually do not have a background in VR. I have been working about the last 5 years to do art projects about the environment, and the way that I mostly do that is by putting sensors out in the environment and then making kind of live sculpture that responds to the data that's being fed from those sensors. So in this video here, I'm standing on the ocean up north of Alaska, and I'm drilling through about 6 feet of sea ice, and then I'll be deploying some sensors through that sea ice to create that I will get data back from, and then I use that data to create a full-scale kind of daily rendering of that sea ice. So this is a light sculpture that has about 1,000 LEDs in it, and the height of that sculpture matches the sensors in the ice. So the idea is that you can get this kind of daily understanding of the ice out there. And then it just so happens that I've known John Rostevsky of CyArk. CyArk did the resonant project that Mark presented a little bit on before. And John and I have known each other for about 20 years when we were grad students at Berkeley. And CyArk's mission is cultural heritage and digital documentation of cultural heritage. So this is a cultural heritage site in Mexico City that kind of shows off the more standard things that they do. So it's photogrammetry, LiDAR, digital documentation of mostly buildings, and then 3D cultural heritage sites. So John and I worked together for about a year to fund and kind of seek funding to take this same approach to a glacier. Basically, that was the idea, the kind of initial starting point of the project. So through a grant from RHU and then through a larger grant from the VPR, we were able to go to glaciers. This is in summer of 2019. We went to a glacier in Wyoming, and we were able to, John is here flying a drone, and I've got some 360 video capture. And then from that, we were able to make a model of the glacier and its surroundings. So on here on the left, you can see the point cloud that's kind of behind us. And then what on the right looks like a photograph is actually a 3D rendering. And then this appears to be a fly-through of drone, like a drone fly-through, but it's actually, or it appears to be a drone moving, but it's actually a fly-through of the rendered model or of the object. So, so this is a 3D asset that we were able to create. So that test was important because we did not know if snow or if the glacier would have the ability to show up on photogrammetry, and in general, LiDAR does not work so great. So that was in the summer of 2019, and then the plan was for us to do a series of scans in the summer of 2020 to turn that into a VR experience. And then COVID happened, and we had this shift that it ended up being positive, but we were obviously not able to travel or do anything in 2020. But through some CyArk connections, this kind of random connections, they started working with some folks that had access to this really amazing data set from Greenland. So this data set was actually created by collaboration between several universities and then Corel, this Army Cold Regions lab. And they have these long-range LiDAR stations on two sides of the glacier, and they basically scan the glacier every 6 hours. So when we came on the project, this was the video that they had come up with. So this is this boundary mark here where the green turns into blue is actually where the glacier becomes ocean. So this is a little more like a typical NASA rendering or kind of a visualization, and it's basically just a height map kind of showing the difference in elevation there. And then the kind of amazing thing about this data set, like the fly through is nice and interesting, but the amazing thing about the data set is that you can actually watch the glacier breathe and move at a time scale that's totally different than you would be able to watch that if you were standing there. So each one of these little pulses is a 6 hour increment, and you can see over the days that the glacier kind of moves forward and back. So that was, we were given access to parts of that data set, and then we were given access to what John reminds me is found footage of basically a bunch of drone flights that they took. And then we were able to actually create a model of the glacier at this one snapshot in time through that drone footage. So that's what you're seeing here, is these kind of shifts back and forth between this being the model that we created, a photogrammetry model of this one pool that was there for a few days. And again, the scale of this is just insane. This the width here is 6 kilometers across that kind of that full chasm, and then the height of these little walls are several hundred feet. So our job, or our kind of goal, was to try to take this scientific data and then turn it into an experience. And this is where we are at with the kind of current setup. So this is the instrument station where the kind of data is collected, and then we were given 60 of these time samples of the glacier moving in order to take that into VR and to kind of make something of it. So that's kind of the test that we've done. And I think that this is really amazing. It's really unusual to be able to work with a 4D data set like this. And then I think that this is something that's really exciting to see, which is this difference between, like, we're watching climate change kind of unfold at this pace that you don't normally get to witness it. And this line here, we're calling the project now Terminal Front, because that is what that line is, where basically this glacier, or this land-borne thing, is kind of peeling off and becoming part of the ocean. And then the last asset, or kind of scene, that we were able to create is this one, which is a pool scene. So this pool was created by these events of nature that really only existed for hours to a day or two. And there's no way to access this as a human. Like, it's completely unsafe to be in this environment. And so we took all of the photogrammetry information and did a ton of post-production work to turn that into something that is kind of interesting and exciting to inhabit. So I think that the excitement in the project for me is this idea that you're using VR to experience things that's not a replication of what you can experience in real life, but you're using it to experience things that you actually cannot experience in real life, such as a place that is too dangerous to go to, or to look at something on a totally different time scale as you would normally be able to. So just to kind of wrap that up, I think that these unusual aspects of it, again, are this 4D data. And then I think it's actually, as a humanities person, I think it's super exciting to think about the environment, or aspects of our environment, as something that's similar to cultural heritage. So whereas CyArk is out there documenting buildings, I think that there's movements in environmental humanities and in philosophy to understand the environment as something that is kind of equal to the human, or to not have a anthropocentric perspective on the environment. So I think that this project and the VR experience has a lot of potential to tell that story. And as far as future developments, we see ourselves at that somewhere between that kind of the discovery and prototyping phase, but we haven't actually been to that site. We haven't been able to interview anyone there. And we are basically just working with this like found footage that we were provided. So we're in the process of identifying additional sources of funding, and we hope to keep going with this for another few years and be able to kind of take it further. That's all I've got, Sammy.
Yeah, thank you, Cy. That's really exciting and interesting, and I love the collaboration